Hello YouTube, and welcome to another tutorial of the BlenderMechanic. Today we're going to be talking about our push rod and spring assembly as an integral part of our whole brake system that we are using here. As you can see, I've designed this quick little animation, really something I've done for work as a promotional video, and you got all these features that come in play, the dynamics, the mechanics. So we're gonna build this piece by piece. My previous tutorial was on how to make the slack adjuster using Boolean modifiers. Well, today we'll be using the spring modifier to create our spring, and as you can see, it attaches here to our push rod. So enough of that. Let's start with the Blender startup page here. So I'm gonna get rid of this 3D box. I'm gonna hit X, delete. Alright, get it into front orthographic view, so 1 and 5. And hit A, Shift A. We're gonna start with the cylinder right here. I'm gonna rotate it on the Y-axis by 90 degrees. We got it like so. Scale it down a little bit, and then drag it out on the x-axis, so GX. Oh, actually scale it on the x-axis, so SX, like this. Scale it down a little bit more, drag it out, SX, just to make it a little larger. Alright, good. Let's go into tab mode. Make sure you got your button selected here so you can select all your vertices when you're making a selection. So this is your limit selection to visible clip with depth buffer. The way it is right now, if I select a set of vertices like so, it will only select the front face of it, or what's facing me here in this case. For example, the rear section of that, none of that's selected. So I don't want that. I want to select the rear portion as well. Very important button. It will save you a lot of work. If you've missed by accident, you'll discover halfway through that your rear half of your 3D model is untouched, and we don't want to do that. We want to modify all of it. So B, and then drag it, and now I have it all selected. Okay. Let's go back to the front orthographic view. Let's make that a little larger. Okay, so now I'm going to extrude here on the x-axis, EX. Extrude again, EX. Okay, so this is going to be, so what we got here is a push rod. And this section here is going to be our pressure plate. So what we'll do is we'll scale it in the Z-axis, so SZ. Make that larger like so. And let's scale it in the y-axis too, so SY. Kind of make it approximately round. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's a pressure plate, so that's what our bag will be pushing against to move this whole rod in this direction to your right here. Okay, so now that we have that, we can get out of our edit mode. I'm just gonna center it. Oh, what's happening here? Let's just get that back. Let's just center it here again. Alright, so get out of edit mode, so hit tab, deselect, and there we go. Push rod and pressure plate. Let's make our spring. So I'm gonna just clip my cursor, 3D cursor, to the center of this object. So cursor to select it, deselect it, Shift A, and make a circle. Alright, so here we got a circle. Scale it down a little bit like so. We can actually do that modification a little bit later. Okay, here we go. So let's use our screw modifier to make a spring. So we're gonna go into tab mode. We're gonna find a modifier button right here, expand that, go to screw right there. Alright, now what we want to do is we want to scale it on the z-axis, or rotate it on the z-axis. So RZ 90 degrees, RZ 90 degrees. Oh, sorry, we want to rotate it on the x-axis. So RX 90 degrees, and scale a little bit smaller like that. And now we will be setting the radius of our spring. So you're gonna go move it to the right on the x-axis, so GX, and there we go. We've got a spring. Scale it down a little bit. Okay, let's quickly just give this a color so we can distinguish. So the gray of the pusher doesn't interfere with the gray of the spring. Let's give it a name, spring. Spring with one N. Alright, go to your materials panel here, go new, and we'll call it just spring color. Let's just say spring color. Okay, good. And we'll make it a nice gold color as we have in our video that I showed you at the beginning there. So let's just go to the fuse side here and make it, yeah, it's kind of, that's good enough. Okay, all right, got it. Now we can rotate it already on our x-axis, I mean on our y-axis, because it's gonna be coiling around this push rod like so. So let's rotate it on y by 90 degrees. Okay, now let's go back into edit mode for this. We're going to be setting the number of loops. So go back to your modifier. Alright, now here you go get the number of loops, or over here in your iterations, your number of loops you want to have. So we're going to go, let's set it to about 5 loops for starters. This will separate the loops, so let's drag it to about 400. Let's make it 1000 actually. Not 1000, we'll set it at 1. And well, actually we'll set this at 3. Drag it out like that. And let's go out of edit mode. Here's a tab so we can move it closer to our pressure plate. So we've got the spring selected already. We go GX and move it right against our pressure plate. I am going to go back into edit mode. I hit scale there by accident. Go back into edit mode. I'm going to shrink this a little just to make that spring a little bit more realistic. When I have a super thick spring, the tension on that will be extreme for that matter. Alright, so here we got a spring. I think we would want to add a couple more coils, and let's make this 2.5 to shrink, just kind of make those coils a little closer. Let's turn it to 2, add one more loop. Alright, let's scale it up a little bit. So out of edit mode, scale it up a little bit more like so. And here we go. Okay, so for right now, this will do. This is our spring and our brake pot assembly. Alright, so we've got 2 components done. And in this case, using the spring, or making a spring using the screw modifier. So in our next tutorial, this is the end here. In our next tutorial, we'll be proceeding with the rest of the components to make that whole assembly that you've seen there, the animation. Nice little thing to present to your company if you work in that industry. And like I said, in this case, I turned it into an ad to feature a brake job and when that's due and so forth. So there we go. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again. Please subscribe, and if you got any comments or so, leave it in the section below for me. I will see you again from the Blender Mechanic.